Welcome.
We ain't afraid of no ghosts.
This is your number one podcast for ghoulies and ghosties and long-legged beasties. Bringing you everything you need to know about things that go bump in the night and interviewing the personalities behind them. Make sure your doors and windows are locked. Now, here are your hosts, your ghost hosts, Scott and Julie.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Paranormal Project. I want to introduce to you my co-host, Julie Finn. Last week's show was pre-recorded. We had just got back from Scotland, and Julie had COVID. So Andrea Perrin was gracious enough to co-host with me when we interviewed Patty Negri. So this is the real co-host. This is the woman that's with me every week. Thank you, Julie. Welcome. I'm so glad to have you here.
Thank you, Scott. And I want to thank Andrea for stepping in on such short notice. It was fantastic of her to help us out like that. Greatly appreciated.
This is a special week because this is our first live show in many, many months, but it's also our first live show with KGRA. We had started recording because of the time difference between here and the UK. But I want to say thank you to Bill Forte for bringing us into KGRA, and also Chanel, who's going to be with us every Wednesday evening, helping us put this show together. And I would also be amiss if I didn't thank Carl War from Pulse Talk Radio in the United Kingdom, who believed in us to begin with. We're still there in the United Kingdom on Monday nights. But here we are, and we have a whole new set, and I'm so grateful to be here. Our show today, we're going to be talking with Charles Rosenay. Now, we met him together, Julie. Do you remember when we were on the USS Salem?
On the USS Salem, they had a Paracon back in May, exactly. And we met him while we were all sitting around vendor tables and going to all the really cool presentations that they had there. They did a great job.
Well, you know, it's funny because I met at the very beginning when we had just started the show in the United Kingdom. And I was hanging up the banner, if you remember, the radio show banner, and he came over to help me, and I thanked him. He said, "Don't need to thank me. I'm just sucking up so I could get on your show." I said, minimal sucking necessary because we were looking for all the people we could get on this show. So it was really great. So we've been looking forward to this. Charles is an author. He's already has one book out, and he's just launched his second book, True Ghost Stories of Connecticut. He also leads investigations. He has been running Paracons. He's got another one coming up, and we're going to talk about that as well. And he's also going to, he's been, since 1998, he's been bringing tourists to ghost tours over to Europe. I don't know if it's just the United Kingdom. We're going to ask him about that as well. So, Chanel, why don't we bring out Charles? Charles Rosenay is backstage. Hello there. How are you?
Hang on. I gotta put my banner up. Can I have a hand with that?
Yeah.
Wait, Charles, I'm coming. Let me get my step stool.
Right. So good to finally have you on the show. It's been many months since we started talking about this. And so I don't know, I'm going to let you lead this in terms of what we talk about first, because I don't know what came first, your book, the Paracons. I mean, the latest book, when did that launch? That came out in July, was it?
Launched in July to coincide with the Connecticut Paracon. It was second year that we had it. And it's the True Ghost Stories of Connecticut. Oh, I got to put my face or else it won't show.
There you go.
and it was something that I got inspired to do because I have a partner, Nick Grossman, we've been doing paranormal investigations together as a team. You met him at the USS Salem event because we're the shaman and the showman. He's the shaman. He's the real deal. He's clairvoyant, psychic, all that. I'm the showman. I'm the producer. I'm the guy who knows how to, hang up posters and get on radio shows and podcasts and TV shows and get interviews. But having said that, how did the genesis, which was the first half of your question, was probably when I was a kid growing up in the Bronx, and my mom kind of spoon-fed me horror movies via the classic, Universal Frankenstein and Dracula and Wolfman, which a lot of us grew up on loving. And I did all the monster models, got all the monster magazines, and that's always been something in the back of my mind that I've always loved. But it wasn't until 1998 when I started doing Dracula tours to Transylvania, because I was doing Beatle tours to Liverpool, which were incredibly successful. And I'm thinking, I love the Beatles, I love monsters. What can I do tour-wise to bring together the two things that work so well with the music things? So sure enough, we started doing the Dracula tours, and they were amazingly successful. We go to all the 3 castles, we go through Shigashora, we go through places that you've only maybe heard about in relation to Vlad's history or the myth and legend of Dracula. We combine the legend with the truth, with Dracula and with Vlad, and we put together a 1-week trip. Well, these were so successful. I'm going to talk so much, guys. You're not going to have a chance to ask me questions. These were so successful. Scott and Julie.
Well, we love that you're excited, honestly, because you're getting us excited, and I want to know when the next tour is.
Well, yeah, for sure. But the Dracula tours were so successful, and the people who went on the tours had such a great time. They would say, "Okay, Charles, what are we doing next?" I go, England? And they said, sign me up. So after about 5-10 years of doing the Dracula tour, I had this, roster of fans followers, travelers who had such a great time. They literally wanted to go on another trip. So we did what we call Dracula Part 2, and it was Ghost Tour to England. And I called it Dracula Part 2 because we go to Whitby, to the Abbey, to all the places that are connected with Bram Stoker's England part of it. And we also do every possible that we can fit in the 1 week scary location in London, in Whitby, in Cambridge, in Essex, in all the surrounding areas. Hugely successful. Guys say to Charles, we want to go on something else. Okay, so we do Scotland, we do Ireland, we do Cuba, we do Israel, we do Hungary, and we keep doing these ghost tours overseas, all mostly European, but we threw in, Cuba and Israel, and people have such a great time, never thinking that I would ever start doing things stateside. But that was the reason that all came about. And
let me ask you, Charles, are they all Dracula related, or are they just ghosts in general?
No. Only the Dracula tour to Transylvania.
Gotcha.
And when we did the first Ghost tour to England, we just concentrated on the Dracula end of things because so many of the people had been on the Dracula tour, and it was like a part 2. But now the ones we do overseas are all paranormal. They're all ghosts. They're all the concentration on that stuff. And one of our co-hosts who joins me when I do the UK ones is Richard Felix from British television's Most Haunted. So he's like my co-host on them. And we just have the greatest time. During COVID, we stopped doing tours for obviously 2 years. Instead of doing something overseas, we did a ghost tour to New Orleans. It was so successful. But we also thought, hey, it's time we did something in my backyard. And that's when we did the first ever paranormal convention in Connecticut, Paracon with 2 N's. Guys, Nick Grossman, I mentioned, is my partner in all this. And he said, Charles, you've been doing Beatle conventions, horror conventions, music things all these years. Let's do a Paracon. And I said, okay, thinking we'd get 100 people. I'm not twist mom at all. Thinking we'd get 100 people, maybe 150, 200 the most. When we passed 500 ticket sales, I said, Nick, man, this is a winner. And we had about 1,500 people and sold out.
Was that the first one?
That was at the first one, which was last year. This year we did another one. Instead of 50 exhibitors, we had 80 vendors. It was just ridiculous. And for the first time, we're bringing what we hope is a real, truly world-class paranormal and horror convention to Salem State University, and we're calling it Salem Paracon.
Yes, I did see that advertised. I actually live a 15-minute drive from Salem, Massachusetts. So I have that on my calendar already. I'm really excited about this.
Do you have it in your calendar that I'm staying over your house, or you didn't know that yet?
I didn't know that yet, but I actually do have a 2-bedroom condo. So it's all good. It's all good, Charles.
And a brand new couch. So, either way, you're
The
good.
brand new couch pulls out into a bed. It's all good.
Charles,
Yes.
what is the secret to that kind of success on your very first Paracon? I mean, it's a lot of work to put something like that together, but to get that kind of success right out of the gate is, I think, phenomenal.
Well, it's a few elements. First of all, Nick got a great slew of guests. The roster was phenomenal. Sean Austin, it was just down the list. Everyone was really, really great. I think I'm a decent promoter, so we got word out very well. And the fact that it was the first of its kind got amazing amount of press. We were on every TV station, every newspaper, the Facebook, all the normal ways to promote. But also, somehow this energy, this crazy high energy, exudes beyond a screen and beyond a phone call. And I think that part of that personality shows in everything I do, and it's infectious. And people like being surrounded by that, higher form of a fun scenario rather than welcome to the show, or and this year, we brought John Zaffis to the convention.
Oh, good.
Who was, as the Warren's nephew, and we dusted off who I consider a legend. He's the world's most famous, if not first, great mentalist, the amazing Kreskin.
No.
He's still
my gosh.
to the convention, and he just was phenomenal. So, always
How
try
old
to.
is he?
He's a legend. He's an absolute legend. Honestly, I'm showing my age, Charles, but I remember watching him on the Tonight Show, The Amazing Kreskin. Yes.
How old is he, Charles? He's got to be, is he in his 90s?
No, he's close. He's in his late 80s.
Late 80s.
Because I booked him on things through the years, and him and I connected when my first book was the book of top 10 horror lists.
Yeah.
And 100 celebrities gave me their lists, and I didn't know he was still kicking. And sure enough, I asked him for a list, got it instantly. Some of these people I have to ask 1,000 times. Some say yes and never do it. He did such a great job on this that I said, I'm putting together another book, the True Ghost Stories of Connecticut. I can't include you with a great story, but I would be honored if you would write the forward. And sure enough, forward by the amazing Kreskin.
How great is that?
He's still sharp. He's still fun. And as long as you put him on a stage, he is just as great as he used to be on Carson.
Would he love to come on a podcast? Just asking,
yes.
In case anybody would like to know, because I would love
to know someone who has a podcast at 7:00 on Wednesday nights.
If you knew. Yes.
We'll help him with his banners.
We'll definitely make that happen for you guys.
Yeah, I think that'd be phenomenal. We'd love to have him on the show. So you got the Paracon, you've got the Salem State coming up, the Salem State Paracon. It's the Salem Paracon at Salem State.
Yes.
I can't wait to go and visit and check that out. Are you still going to Transylvania?
Yeah. Oh, sure. Well, we skipped the 2 years for the pandemic. What we do is we go every single year from October 27th through November 3rd. And it's timed really, really, we've got it down to a science where we follow in Jonathan Harker's footsteps. We go up the Borgo Pass through the mountains, and we wind up for Halloween night in Dracula's castle. And this is prior to that, we've gone to Vlad's birthplace. We've gone to Snagoff Monastery where he's supposedly buried. We go to Vlad's, everything to do with him, including Paneri Castle. And I mention that because people think of Bran Castle as the Dracula castle. Bran Castle is that beautiful, picturesque, just amazing castle that you see in horror movies. You see it on all the travel channels, but it has a very, very slight Dracula connection. Vlad was supposedly imprisoned there for maybe 6 days. It's the only connection aside from how gorgeous and how amazing and how it looks like a vampire castle. But we go up Paneri Castle, which was the actual ruins of where Vlad, his wife fell over or was thrown over or who knows what, and he
fell over. Yes.
Yeah, fell over.
Yeah, the man doesn't have a reputation, you know.
Well, Julie, it's funny you say that because we spent time in Brasov, which is where the impalings were, where he would take his enemies and put them down so that they would slowly.
Horrific. Yes.
And so the Dracula tour goes on, dractours.com for anyone who wants to take a vampire vacation.
Well, I'm going to let you in, and all our listeners, I would let you in on a little secret right now. Right after the first of the year. Yeah, don't tell anybody, okay? Don't tell anyone. This is between us three. Bram Stoker's great-grandnephew is coming on the show at the first of the year.
Docker,
yes.
Yes, he
is. He's a great guy.
Yeah, very, very pleasant. We met him in Michigan, and right away, I'd love to come on the show. And so we've got him booked. It's after the first of the year. It'll be January, but it's still,
classy guy.
Yes.
His books are phenomenal.
Yeah.
When you do the show, just remember to talk about the Transylvania tour we do. Throw in an extra plug.
Oh, absolutely. You know that. So speaking of tours, and you did say that you did other tours, do you plan on going back to England soon on a tour?
Thank you. Didn't you?
The best setup I could have had for that.
I have my pen. I'm ready.
We're going back. Sure enough, July 17th through the 24th. I just announced it this week. We're doing pretty much a lot of the places we've been to, but turns out some of the people who went before, who maybe went 10 years ago, 50, they want to return. So yes, we'll do Jack the Ripper. We'll do the Whitby, but I'm going to throw in a lot of other places that we've never been to either. So it's a combination of the best of both worlds for people who've been with me before and have never been and have to see the must places. But yes, Ghost Tour to England is going to be taking place throughout the London and surrounding areas, July 17th through the 24th. We don't have a website for it, but there's a Facebook for it, or people can contact me at the information below.
That's great.
And we'll let people know towards the end of the show exactly how to get on that Facebook, right? I'm ready. I have been actually, and I know Scott did too, pre-COVID, to London and the Jack the Ripper tour. There's many of them, and fabulous take. If you can do it, if you can get to London and do this, I mean, it's great.
Guys, you could spend a week in just London doing thematic stuff between the dungeon and the tower. There's just endless stuff, but we cram it in a day or two of London, and then we hit the rest of the land.
I'm very excited.
Do you have a tour guide in London that works with you there as well?
Yeah, it's Richard Felix.
Oh, he's the one in London. I'm sorry, I was thinking he was in Transylvania.
No. He's the England one. What I'm pretty much, I don't want to say I'm the tour guide. I'm the host. I'm the one who makes sure that when Scott and Julie come with me, you guys have the most catered, curated, a great event. So when you're on the coach, if you're not sleeping because we pack up, things we do, I'm showing movies. I'm on the speaker playing, trivia. I'm keeping everyone fun. And the reason why is when we started doing the Dracula tours to Transylvania, I researched it and I saw, there's some tours that go around Romania and spend one day in Transylvania as a Dracula theme. But all those tours, guys, were senior citizen tours. And I say that in no offense. I say it because they start at 8 a.m, right after breakfast, and then they end at 5 o'clock for dinner, and then everyone goes to sleep. Well, that's not how I work. Yeah, we started at 8 or 9. Give it 9 because we like to sleep an extra hour. We go on touring all day. We eat dinner, and then we do activities at night. We go to, themed Dracula restaurant.
That's great.
And we keep it, So for us, the tour doesn't end, with dinner. That's halfway for us.
Oh, that's fabulous. So just a quick question about the tour, because I'm super excited and interested, is that is, other than food, is everything included in the tour price?
So I have an option if people want to fly with us, and we leave from Kennedy Airport, JFK in New York, and everyone meets as a group. We go together. So there's a one price with flights, and then there's a flight for the folks who live in Oshkosh.
From Boston, Logan.
Well, no, Boston, you'll come with us. We'll get you a connector to New York. We'd want you to, the full experience is to join the group if possible.
Right.
And fly out together if possible.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we land in England, we meet Richard Felix. And he's the author of a book called What is a Ghost, by the way. And he should be on your show. So aside from Kreskin, we'll mark that down. Those are
Write that down, Richard Felix.
Right. I have pen in hand. I'm ready.
So I'm the host. He's the tour guide. And every place he takes us, whether it's York and the York Minster, which is flooded with ghosts. And then there's the Golden Fleece pub nearby. Or if we go to the Derby Gale, and I'm saying it the way he says it because it's actually the Derby Jails. Whatever we go to, he knows the stories behind them. And boy, I'm dying to tell you some, but I'll leave it for him to tell you whether it's in person on the tour or when he's a guest on the show.
Now, do you investigate while you're there? Do you go on investigations?
Sure. So half the people are, mediums, paranormal. They're folks like yourselves who either have equipment or know how to use equipment, or Charles, how do I use this equipment?
Right.
So yeah, more and more as the years have gone by, there's more of that. In the beginning, it was more of a stoic tour where we were just seeing the sites. But why not see the sites and also do an investigation and see if there's readings and see if there's, contact. So yeah, good question. Yeah, it's both now.
Oh,
That's
fabulous.
great.
Fabulous.
That's great.
My kind of vacation, Charles.
I too. Guys, it's funny because my first Beatles tour I ever did was in '83. And my goal back then was to get enough people that I could get a free trip. that was my goal. I wasn't out to make money. I'm a DJ, I'm an MC, I'm a party guy, I do entertaining. That was my income. This was always a sideline. And when the Beatles at its greatest was getting 100 people, yeah, we were making money. Now, those people are a little older. They've passed. I don't get the numbers I used to. So now it's back to, as long as I get a free trip, it's okay. With the Dracula tours, I don't go on them anymore. I have a host in Romania named Radu. Perfect, right?
Radu. Oh.
And he is amazing because he gets it. He's the Romanian version of me. He's hyper, he's fun. And if the people are up for it, he takes them out, partying at night. It continues the way I described. The reason I don't do the Romanian tour, and I did it for 10, 12 years, is because I run haunted attractions in Connecticut. And I'm so busy doing appearances with the books that I can't break away in October. This year, after a few years away because of COVID, I'm launching something in Connecticut called the Haunted Trolley. And guys, I'm announcing it here for the very first time. We have the Facebook up. We're going to have the website up. Haven't promoted it yet, and it's a month away. I don't know when this is going to air, but on October 21st, 22nd, and 23rd, it's the Haunted Trolley at the Shoreline Trolley Museum. So it's an actual antique trolley that still runs. We're taking it over. It's a 20-minute ride out where I'll do my shtick, where I'll do a lead up and tell the true story of the 1917 crash of a trolley that killed 19 people and the mystery behind it. And Nick, my partner, will do the 20 minutes back of either a seance or a reading or a scrying session where it'll be just beyond belief. It'll be like nothing anyone's ever done. So that's what my Halloween looks like this year.
So let me say this. This is airing right now as we speak, because I know originally we were going to record, but this is live. So no.
You are live, sir. Yes, yes. So put the beer down. So, Charles, I have a question for you about the Haunted Trolley Tour.
Yeah.
I do believe I've heard the story about this, about the crash, and think no, this is going back, and we read so many different ghost stories, but
Yes.
I believe that there has been an apparition of a person, and also one of the lanterns. Am I remembering correctly?
So
And they hear signs of the trolley noise.
Trolley. I know that story. I don't know if that's a Massachusetts or another New England trolley.
Okay.
I do know that on this one, it was very suspicious because the motorman supposedly was overtired, hadn't slept for 16 hours, and fell asleep. And it was an unsolved mystery. And
Oh,
you only get what happened leading up to his arrest. You get what happened leading up to the people, 17 who died on the spot, 2 died in the hospital. You get a lot of details, but you don't get closure. And our belief is that the 17 or 19 people who were unfortunately lost in the accident never had closure. And so the question is, do we contact them? Or do we contact the motorman? And was the motorman possessed at the time? So there's a lot of different theories as to what happened. And on a given ride, we're going to explore the different theories. So someone who goes at 8 o'clock might get a different experience as someone who goes at 9 or 10 o'clock. It's something very different that's never been done before.
Where in Connecticut, Charles? Where in Connecticut does this take place?
It's actually right near me. I'm in the New Haven area. This is in East Haven, Connecticut, and the trolley goes actually from East Haven to Branford. It's interesting, which made it very interesting when the court took care of it in 1917, because they didn't know how to judge it. The accident was in one city. It came out of one city. It returned to a different city. So it was a very, very fascinating case.
right.
So New Haven, that's closer to New York, right? That's on the New York side.
It's in the middle, yeah.
Oh, is it more in the middle? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm an hour and a half from New York City, an hour from the New York border, an hour and a half from Springfield.
Okay.
And
Yep.
Western Mass, 2.5 hours to Boston. Yeah, it's you know what? If you're on the East Coast and you're within 2.5, 3 hours, it's worth the trip. It's worth a trip to thetrolleymuseum.com.
TheRaleighMuseum.com. And where?
No. I'm sorry. That's not it.
Wait, scratch out. I don't have an eraser. Go ahead.
It's so new that I actually screwed up the website. It's thehauntedtrolley.com. And
Okay, that's what I wrote down, the haunted trolley, but I didn't write down .com. Okay, because I am a psychic empath.
Yes.
Yeah. Except when it comes to our own stuff, and then
I know. I played the lottery. It doesn't work.
it
I don't
doesn't
know.
work,
Yeah,
I'm telling you.
right. I have no idea.
So is
We
this
rented a car. We went to Michigan. You think one of us, 2 psychics in the car, would know that it's going to get a flat tire? No.
You're just fantastic.
She's fantastic. She is.
I am fantastic. It's so true, Charles. I'm so glad you see that.
I'm not a seer. I'm not a reader. That I see.
That you see. That's it.
Oh, Scott, you're going to ask something. I'm sorry.
Is this a one-time event, or is this an ongoing thing now? The trolley.
So for many years, I ran a haunted attraction, your typical, jump scares, people popping out, screaming in your ears, called Fright Haven. Very successful. Sold it because I didn't think we'd be able to open for COVID. This is my return to this Halloween experience. It's 3 nights, only 3 nights, October 21st, 22nd, 23rd. I think it's going to sell out because there's only going to be 40 people per ride, 4 rides a night.
Oh, sure.
So if it sells out, I'm going to add the following weekend. We have that option.
That's Halloween. Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great.
Wow. That sounds like fun.
You have a lot of stuff going on, Charles. Wow.
How do I have time for everything? I don't get it. Yeah, I do have a lot of stuff going on. And you talk about, the experience that the people have on the trolley. Guys, I don't consider myself, a medium. I don't consider myself, I'm an investigator because I investigate, not because if I go to someplace. Now, having said that, Nick Nick, we once picked up, I love pinball machines, and we went to a place to pick up a pinball machine in Southern Connecticut, and he walks in the house and he's like, Charles, this place. I go, what? He goes, I don't know if I should ask them. And he says, did something happen in that den? And they go, oh my God, yeah, our grandmother passed away last week. Like that. So he's got those, he's got those powers.
He gets that feeling.
I don't, but he's told me we investigated an opera house. He says, Charles, take pictures here, take pictures here, take pictures here. Sure enough, if I have a power, I get amazing things on camera. I do get great stuff at the opera house, and I use it as the cover of the book. I mean, this was a case where this is the upper part of the opera house. This was a blank door. There was nothing there. And then at one point, I wish I could bring it closer, but I'll lose it. There's a shadow figure right in the doorway, and I used it on my cover. But also, he said at the bottom under the stairs, he says, please take pictures here. It's colder. I'm getting a lot of things. And I took pictures, and I put it in the book. And you see two skeleton. I don't know how to describe two Nosferatu-looking specters floating, literally levitating across the floor. And it's one after another, and you see the face and you see the arm. And after I showed him the pictures, he goes, I knew it. And I go, I don't believe this stuff. And you prove it to me over and over again.
Yeah. Well, Hans Holzer wrote and said that an investigative team cannot do a good job, cannot be a team unless they do have a psychic. Because if you're in this huge area, they're going to be able to help you hone into, like your friend, exactly where you should go. And so in my book, if Hans Holzer, the ghost hunter, Imperial, says that, I mean, I think we should all heed what he says. And in your experience, you find that's true, as a lot of people that Scott and I work with have found to be true.
I couldn't agree more. And you guys, you hit that on the nose. What happens is, I've learned, is that the people who are sensitive are also a conduit. So if you're going and you don't know how to, you don't, hello, spirit, please say hello. I can do that forever. Yeah. And it doesn't work the way it does when someone is a sensitive, no doubt.
Charles, Bob Blackmore asking, has Charles been to the Benton Homestead in Tolland, Connecticut? Is that a place you're familiar with?
I'm not. Not only have I not been there, but nope, I don't have a story on it in my book. If you've been in there and you have a great story, I would love for you to share it for my next volume. We've gone, and if Bob is a Connecticut guy, he'll know, we've gone to Dudleytown and Fairfield Hills and Little People's Village. And one of the most amazing places we've gone to is a place that's now getting a bit of a reputation called the Zachariah Curtis House. And it goes back to Druids, and the energy there is just beyond. But I'll share with you a great story that's in my book.
Please do.
Because he mentioned a place in Connecticut, and it made me think of this place, Dudleytown. And it made me think of how I'm not, that magnet for what happens. But you'd think that people who are not that don't get an experience. Well, here we are, 20 of us going to this place where we're not supposed to go. So don't let that air. We go to this.
Let's not tell anyone, Charles.
Chanel, she'll cut that out for us.
Chanel, don't you dare. Dudleytown, which we won't go to because we got a cease and desist, so we're not going back there. You heard that, Dudleytown. We're not going. We go there with a group of 20. We plan it. It's a day out. A state cop sees us, waves. I go, we're hiking. He goes, gives us the thumbs up. All good. We go to the patch of land. It's an open field. This is where the whole core of Dudleytown is. Dudleytown, just a quick history. The people it's Cornwall, Connecticut. The people from England were banished. When America was getting some of the UK people, they weren't getting the best of the best. We were getting the ones they wanted to get rid of. And this family apparently incest and killing each other and killing themselves. Anyway, so the land was definitely cursed. And so we go there, and guys, when you go to this area, all of a sudden, it's kind of silent. Opposite of me, silence. There's no sound of crickets. There's no sound of birds. There's no wildlife. It's like like death in this area.
Wow.
And I had a gal from New Jersey named Tracy. She said this is the strongest and she's sensitive, the strongest she's ever felt. One gal says, I thought this was so exclusive. What about that hiker, that jogger who's passed us by? You know, who you talking about? She goes, right there on the other side. He was wearing all black, black running pants, black shirt, black cloak. And as she's saying it, she's realizing what she's saying. A black figure passed by where no person could go. Wow. And she spotted something, and we don't know what she spotted, but the way she told it, we know she wasn't BS. And this was really her spotting. Said, well, that's not all. There was one guy on the tour, and he was like rolling his eyes, bored, looking at his watch. When this could be over? He went with his girlfriend who loved this stuff. And, all of a sudden we're pointing to him. And all of us are just pointing to him. You go, why? Because I'm the one who's out? No, because of your hair. Julie, Scott, you won't believe that this one guy, all of a sudden his hair was being pulled straight up in the air. No reason, no electrical force, no reason, no one around him, no string attached. No, his hair was being pulled. We took pictures of it. We have proof. I put in the book. And he changed his tune very quickly.
I'll bet he did. Great story. Wow.
I'll bet he did.
Yes, yes.
That's awesome. So these places that you investigated and, that were the basis for your book, are they still available, some of them? The idea of the opera house is intriguing. I don't know if that...
I think what Scott is saying is, can we go with you? Will you take us, please? Please, Charles? We promise to be your friends forever.
Yes, and I'll tell you what.
Don't turn him off, Julie.
Only if Chanel joins us.
There you go.
What I'll tell you is that opera houses were not just musical theater. In fact, they never had operas. What they had was community centers and evening shows and get-togethers and gatherings and local because they were a center of meeting, of gathering. And where were their opera houses? Literally in every city on a train stop. So if your train went through the city, you would have a grand hotel, right? A gala hotel. You'd have that really upscale restaurant, and you'd have the opera house. So two towns very close to each other, Derby and Ansonia, which are part of the Valley in Connecticut, both had opera houses. My partner, Nick, explored both. The Ansonia one is the one we did. And they're both, one is under renovation and one is pretty much sealed off. But I'll tell you what's very fascinating. When you think about paranormal, maybe the first thing that comes to mind, people that come to mind is the Warrens. When you think about mentalism, I'd like to you think now Kreskin might be the first. When I say magic, who's the first one that comes to mind?
Houdini,
no doubt. Houdini played all these opera houses. He would get on the train and he'd hit every city and he'd do the opera house. He'd eat at the fancy restaurant, go to sleep at the hotel, and the next morning he'd be on the way. And his thing was always, I'll come back on Halloween and you'll know I'll be back. That may not have ever happened. He may not have possessed any of these opera houses. But the fact is, so many people, and we're talking hundreds, thousands, went to these opera houses and had a great experience there most of the time. Exactly. So the energy is going to be unbelievable. When you go to a place that's haunted and there's a negative energy, you get that right away. In a place where happy things happen, whether it's a movie theater or concert hall or these opera houses, there's an abundance of that. The energy is more cumulative than individual in a lot of cases. And it's because so many great experiences happen there. And it might be that that's a place where these people afterwards wanted to return to.
Sure.
Makes sense.
Makes a lot of sense. Absolutely. Yes. Wow.
But you asked about a lot of the places that are in my book. So what I did, which I thought was a little clever, is I wrote certainly some of the chapters, but I reached out to my colleagues, people who were renowned paranormal investigators throughout Connecticut and New England, people who'd worked with the Warrens, a photographer for the Warrens, people who I knew investigated these places, and people who had, in my brain, credibility, who I trusted. And I said to you guys, I said to them, what is your most famous true ghost story? I don't want to hear the rumors. I don't want to hear the history behind a place. You can get that in any book. I want to hear your actual firsthand encounter, your firsthand experience in these places. And they jumped over hoops to give me those stories because, yeah, maybe they told them on a convention stage. Maybe they wrote a book which encapsulated it in a bigger story. But to be able to put in one paragraph, in one chapter and be part of a book that had 30 of these stories. The great thing is when they came to Paracon, I had half of the guests there. So someone picked up the book, they got me to sign it, and then they went around the room and got all the other authors who were in the book to sign it.
Oh, wow.
Where does
That's
that happen?
great.
So
That's great.
pretty special. Yeah.
That is great.
Absolutely.
And it's great for, someone like us that's always looking for another location, a place that could be a place that we could get into or investigate at some point,
Yeah, Zachariah Curtis House in Trumbull, Connecticut. See what we do, guys, and you'll come as my guest. It's a different scenario. Nick scouts out these places.
Yeah.
He makes sure that there's incredible amount of activity.
Mhm.
And then I promote 2 nights of going there. And I'll open it to a group of 10, 20, 25, the most. We'll host them. And we
Yes.
do a whole day of it. We'll go to a restaurant first. We'll have pizza and soda. We'll teach them how to use the paranormal equipment. We'll show them some videos. I'll try to sell my book. We do a whole production. And after that 1 hour, we go to the location and we spend 2 hours there, whether it's inside, outside, a combination of both. We tell the history of the place. We tell the stories of what's happened there. And the results have been just through the roof. Just amazing.
Oh, absolutely. I think people love it. And, it would be great. We'll talk later. Let's, try to make this happen because it would be really exciting. And
Yeah,
it's great because it's just a couple of hours away from our home,
True.
We're going to be doing something in November at the Grist Mill Inn. And I don't know if that's Massachusetts or Rhode Island.
You are? Is that what you said? You're doing
I
something?
think that's in Rhode Island, but I'm not 100% sure.
So we have a third person who's part of we call the Ghost Storm. His name is Shane. He is in Rhode Island, and he's been doing a lot of scouting because, you can run out of places in Connecticut.
Sure.
Yeah, we'll repeat them. There's some that are just so hot that we want to continue going back to. I wish we can go back to Dudleytown, and if we could find, permission from the town, we will. But there's another place called Stepney Cemetery, which has an amazing amount of activity. It's located on the border of the church where more exorcisms were performed in New England than anywhere else.
Wow.
It's got the abandoned caretaker's house, and it's got the Warrens' grave. That's where they're buried.
Oh, really?
And the famous white lady, the famous ghost of that haunted cemetery, travels from that cemetery to Union Cemetery. There's a few miles apart between 2 cemeteries.
Really?
And the place that we have the pizza, the owners tell us about the times they've encountered her, and it's so that's the one we'll do maybe once or twice a year. There's some that we did, and all right, it was okay. We went to an abandoned tavern in Waterbury, Connecticut. That was the site of the secret prohibition drinking, that was done.
Yes.
And that was gangster mob influence. There was a lot of deaths, killings down there. So we went down there. Half the people had beyond, experiences. Other people had nothing. And for us, we want a 75% to 80%, scenario where people have experiences. Now we know that's an amazing success rate. Most people are happy with 50%. We're not. So we're never going to go back there. I don't think it was, that sexy of a location and that hot spot of paranormal to do it again. But so that's why we're not only doing repeat ones for people who didn't go, but we're adding to the ones to our roster of places that we could bring people to. You know, guys, as you know, some of these places might be dangerous, and people shouldn't go on their own. You know,
Absolutely.
couldn't go there because you know what's going to attach. You don't know what's going to come home with you. But when you're going with people who are, I'd like to think, knowledgeable, as if they went with you, or if they went with me, or if they went with, Holzer, if they went with any of these people, God forbid if something attaches, they could be cleansed on the spot.
Exactly.
They can be told what salt procedures, what to do when they get home to make sure.
Let me tell you, Charles. And in terms of having like Nick with you on an investigation is really helpful, because Julie and I were in Ohio over the weekend, and we went to a place that our gifts are very different. I'm a medium. They come to me, I talk to them, I deliver messages, but she's an empath, so she feels stuff. And we walked into the 3rd floor, which was an asylum, and she knew right away, and you could see the emotion in her face. We shouldn't be here. We should not be here.
Right.
And, that's something that if you're
it's
not.
my job to keep the team safe, or the people that I'm with safe. And we had done a tour, and I hadn't opened myself up all the way because I just knew that I shouldn't. So when it came time to investigate, I just kind of did my little poking as we're walking up the stairs. And Scott and Cindy were in front of me and just about to walk through the door. And I said, please stop. Do not go through that door. Because I knew that it was a human entity, but it was there. This was the 3rd floor of this place housed the criminally insane. And it is no joke on that floor. It really is not. Some horrific things happened there. And so I just said, I'm also an intuitive. And I just said, we can't be here. We cannot stay on this floor. We investigated the entire place, and it was wonderful. But I said, listen, I don't think it's safe for us to be here tonight. Now, another day, another night, possibly it would have been fine. But that night, it just happened. It was a full moon. There were thunderstorms. The electric, the energy was crazy to begin with. And just that night, I just said, it's just not safe for us to be here. And everyone knew enough.
You felt the malevolent spirit, yes?
I felt it was pushed at me.
Wow.
It was pushed at me, and it did show me what it did to another patient in its lifetime, to show me it wasn't a joke. And another woman that was with us, Cindy, has some intuition, and she was feeling the same thing. And so I had voiced that I felt as though my stomach is being ripped out of me. And Cindy had said, oh my gosh, Julie, she said, I have a horrible pain in my stomach. And that's when I said, we just need to leave. It's just not safe for us to be here. Now, this was, this is a human entity. Can it physically hurt us? No, because it is human. And I don't think it was powerful enough to hurt us, but it wanted us to know this is my space and you are not welcome here.
Wow.
And so we left. That was it. We left. And we went back down to the other floors, and there were 2 different buildings, and it was fine. We had great investigation in the other floors. That was just a place that we were not meant to be that night.
But it was crazy active. And, if you remember, there was Cindy had asked, did you get hurt here, or did somebody hurt you? And
Yes.
You hear a man very emphatically say no. And then the woman, and it was Class A, like right through the record. It was on an EVP. You can hear it say, she said, I did.
Wow.
And he yelled back at her and went, WTF, but he said it out, he said it out. And I thought, holy Christmas, that there was anger in those words. There was anger in that reaction. So, there's a lot of that kind of stuff. And, you have to be careful. You have to be careful, because
That's it. It's not safe to go, it's not like the movies. It's not safe to go investigate in these places unless you're with people that know what they're doing. I've been investigating for 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
And let me tell you, I know when to back off, as I've said to someone once. I remember someone saying to me, have you ever seen have you seen a ghost? Have you heard a ghost? I said, well, I've seen things I can't explain. I've heard things I can't explain. And I've seen things that would scare the bejesus out of you.
Sure.
And they have,
Right.
We named a place the Demonic House of Derby, and investigators went before us. Three brothers extreme paranormal. No, two brothers extreme, and they're a paranormal group. Two brothers, and they were at the USS Salem event in Quincy, and they wrote about it in the book. And when they were there, his arm was ripped. He had scratch marks from whatever it was that didn't want him to be there. So we investigated it with a group, but a big group, and there was nothing dangerous that happened. But they were in a room, and all the doors were closed, and from nowhere, a metallic ball was thrown at Nick. So he left the room after that.
Yes. Yes.
Charles, we have about 4 minutes left to the show. So I know. Past this hour, but I want to give you a few minutes just to tell everybody everything you want to tell them. How do they reach you? What have you got coming up? And that thing.
I appreciate that. So the Dracula tours to Transylvania, which sparks everyone's interest. The vampire vacations once a year. You can go to www.dractours.com. Julie's writing it down. DRACTOURS. The Ghost Tour to England is on Facebook. You can go Google Ghost Tour to England 2023, and it'll come up. The website's not up yet, but it will be on www.toursofterror.com. The upcoming convention, which is a world-class horror and paranormal convention in Salem, Massachusetts at Salem State University, is it's right there passing us by, www.salemparacon.org. The Haunted Trolley, which is coming to Connecticut for the first time, that I'll be hosting with Nick, the shaman and the showman, aboard an antique, really working, full-sized trolley, is as part of our Halloween experience, October 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. And if it sells out like we expect it to, we'll do the following weekend as well. Then that's www.hauntedtrolley.org or www.thehauntedtrolley.com. As far as these great books are concerned, I almost forgot. Book of top 10 horror lists, where 100 celebrities give me their favorite horror lists. Boris Karloff's daughter, Sarah, Eddie Munster, one of the Beatles, one of the Monkees, on and on and on, is www.bookoftop10horrorlists.com, and it's the number 10, bookoftop10horrorlists.com. And the new book, which you guys are going to love it. Anyone who's into the paranormal and loves ghost stories is going to love True Ghost Stories of Connecticut. And the website of that, as is scrolling below us, is www.paranormalconnecticut.com. And I personally go to a lot of conventions and all these events with my books because I love signing them. People can get them on Amazon, no problem. But if you want a signed copy, it's best to go to those websites and be in touch.
That's awesome. Thank you, Charles. It has been an absolute pleasure. And we're definitely going to connect and get to at least one or more of your events down in Connecticut.
I will definitely see you in Salem.
We'll see you in Salem. And folks, thanks so much for joining us today. We have a few minutes left. I just wanted to let you know next week we're going to have Chris Brown with us. Go ahead.
I got to say one thing.
Go ahead.
This has been Scott-tastic and phenomenal.
Yes!
Brilliant.
Bloody brilliant.
Next week, we're going to be talking to Chris Brown. Chris Brown is a psychic medium. He is going to be joining me at the iconic Hawthorne Hotel in Salem, Mass. in November. He and I are doing a gallery event. November 3rd at 7 o'clock. We're going to be doing a gallery event together there, he and I. And so we're going to be talking about that and mediumship and the stuff he's got going on. And we're going to be giving away a reading next week for people that are here. So stick around. You want to stay here for the whole show next week because we're giving away a free reading. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Have a wonderful, wonderful day and have a great night.
Thank you, Charles.
Thank you, guys.
You have been listening to The Paranormal Project with Scott Allen and Julie Finn. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. While you're there, leave us a rating and review so others can find out about the show. Stay haunted and go out there and explore the paranormal.